Kala Vairava Karma, an after death ritual at Isha. For a long time, we used to provide this service for the dead, personally for people who approached us. If at the instant a person died, if someone sent me their picture, there is something that I would do for them in the first 3 days after death. Sometimes we could do a lot, sometimes we could do only a little, sometimes we could even do an absolute job depending upon who it was. We would not tell them what we have done, but we would do something for sure. Till now, we have done this for thousands of people. But as the number of these requests increased, we thought this service needs to be scaled up. Now at the yoga center, we do a proper ritual called the Kala Vairava Karma. This will greatly aid and assist the journey this departed being has to make now. All it requires is a photograph of the dead person and a piece of cloth used by him. It would be good if the blood relatives of this person are present while the ritual is being performed at the yoga center. So, how is it possible that with just a photograph and a piece of cloth we can assist the person who has died in their journey? One way of understanding life is that everything that you know is life right now is in some way an imprint of a certain memory. Now, when I say memory, I am not talking about just remembering something in the conscious mind. It goes beyond that. You are in the human form with 2 hands, 2 legs, and all that because of the evolutionary memory. In this human form, there are specific manifestations like the skin color, the shape of the nose, the shape of the eyes, etc. because of the genetic memory. Even when these things are the same or similar, each human being is different in some way because of individual karmic memory. There are layers and layers of memories like this. Now, these memories are present in the mind, body, and the energies of a person and play out in so many ways. Essentially, what you call individual lives are these small bubbles of memory, different levels of memory that have become different kinds of creatures. Of these creatures, a human being has the most complex memory. Because of the complexity of memory, the enhancement of abilities has happened, and the enhancement of suffering also has happened. Other creatures do not suffer their memory like human beings. Sometimes they suffer a singular memory. Some birds and animals suffer one particular memory. Maybe its partner died, or maybe something else happened. They just become depressed. They just remember that one thing and they suffer that. But a human being is not like that. He or she can remember a million small things and suffer a million times over, because human memory is very detailed and there is a vividness to it. There is a certain reality to it that is more real than the real. For most people, what happened yesterday is more real than what is happening right now. That is their experience of life. They live by memory. When you live by memory, you live with one foot in the land of death and another in the land of life. That is torture. If you want to look at it in a very rudimentary manner, let us say you walked in your garden. Now, if you bring a sniffer dog, just by smelling the ground, you will know which way you went. They can do this for up to 3 or 4 days, sometimes even longer. If there has been no disturbance, this is because you leave puddles of memory when you walk, as our individual scent is a consequence of the unique nature of our complex memory structure. That is why a dog is able to trace it down. But if just a few moments of your contact with the ground, you are leaving puddles of memory for a creature like a dog to pick up, imagine how much memory you are leaving behind throughout the span of your life. How much memory do you think the clothes that you wore, the places you sat on, the places you slept on, the objects that you were in touch with, and such other things carry? Once a person is dead, in Indian culture, we always want to wipe out the Runanubandha because we know yesterday has a power of its own. If you do not liberate yourself from it, yesterday will rule your tomorrow. Yesterday ruling your tomorrow means tomorrow never comes. Someone said this very forcefully: leave the dead to the dead. Leaving the dead to the dead does not mean ignoring those who died. It just means whatever happened yesterday, whatever happened in the previous moment, you must always be conscious it is dead. After a person dies, maybe they have attained mukti or they have gone somewhere else. We don't know. But either because you were born to them or you were in touch with them in some way or the other, their memory imprints are on you. These imprints are not just in your mind but also in your body and energies as well. So, one important aspect of death rituals is that you must become free of this. It is very important. Becoming free of memory and losing your memory are two different things. If you lose your conscious memory, you may no longer remember them, but it does not mean you have become free of it. This will start to work within you in many unconscious ways. Therefore, we want to distance ourselves from our memory. We don't want to lose it. We just want to carry it a little loosely on us. That is all. So, with these death rituals, you do some things to free the departed, but it is also important to free the living. Some distance must happen. If there are too many puddles of strong memory, it will also trouble the dead. Close relatives, particularly if they had very loving relationships with them, will bother the dead. That is why in this culture, when someone wanted to die, they went away to a place where they were not among family. You don't want to be with your family when you die because till the last moment these attachments will go on. You want to be away alone, clearly understanding that all the relationships we have made in this world are essentially of memory. Once these memories are wiped out, no relationship exists. It is now easy to establish that dimension within us, to become conscious of that dimension which is beyond memory, which is life itself. So, for the departed one, we want to save off as much memory as possible so that their process of liberation becomes smoother, easier, not tangled up here and there. The 14th day after a person has died is an important day while doing the rituals for the dead. This is the day when all the blood relatives of the person who has died must assemble and perform some rituals. On such an occasion, in traditional settings, you will see the relatives of the dead person taking account of who has come and who has not. They keep tabs if everyone has come because these are people who have strong memories or runanubandha with the person who has died. They have to come and in some way wash their memory and release the person. For 14 days, they would have collected all the little bits and pieces of memories that this person has left behind. Now they want to assemble the whole thing and dissolve it. This residual memory should not live on, it must go, dissipate in every possible way. So, everyone who carries a piece is required to be there. Those days are gone when the whole clan assembled when someone died. In today's condition, this is no longer feasible. Only one or two people come for Kala Bhairava Karma. Furthermore, they grumble, do I have to come? Can I send it by DHL? Can I FedEx it? We do not know where all the memories of the person who died are stuck. So, we do whatever best we can. In such cases, one simple thing to do is that you take a whiff of their memory and put it in a place which is naturally about disentanglement. Normally, they tie it in front of a Shiva temple because he is an ascetic, untouched by anything, always smeared in ash. So, with Kala Bhairava Karma, We use a photograph of the dead person and a piece of clothing that was in close contact with their body. Both these articles will have strong imprints of the memories of the person. Now, we do a process to dissolve as much of this memory as possible. What is not possible? Leave it to Shiva. We don't want to put these articles on the Dhyanalinga, so we burn them and tie the ashes in a cloth to the tamarind tree outside the Dhyanalinga entrance to take care of whatever is left. Kala Vairava Karma is not a dig and clean process. We just mop up the surface so that nothing holds as far as possible. For most cases, this itself is enough. It is not good to put a number to these things, but it is just my guess that maybe around 10 to 15% of the people would need very strong processes to release them. For another 60 to 70%, you can release them with very simple process like Kala Vairava Karma. For another 10 to 15%, that is in between, if some residue of that person is placed in a powerful space which we are doing, it will do the job. If we want to do a total thorough cleaning, which may be necessary sometimes, it will need a different level of involvement from both the parties, the person who performs the ritual and the relatives of the departed one. This gets complicated. It will need a much higher level of involvement, and it does not always work out well. In case it does not work out well, it could be an unnecessary disturbance of life for those who are living. We don't really want to rake it up, so we just wipe clean everything that is on the surface. This is what Kala Vairava Karma does. Kala Vairava Santi, on the other hand, is mostly for the people who are living, but sometimes it is for the dead also. Now, if a close relative who carries a very strong memory of that person comes and spends enough time in the Dhyanalinga, even if there is no ritual, it may still work for that dead person. This is not because of the Kala Vairava Karma. This is the nature of the place. Even when we are alive, when we say that the Dhyanalinga will make you meditative, what we mean is that it will stop the endless mental diarrhea that goes on in a person. When mental diarrhea stops, it means the memory that is of the rotting kind gets reduced. Now, if there is no food in the stomach, there will be no diarrhea, isn't it? Similarly, if there is no memory rotting inside, there will be no thought process. It develops a distance from yourself. Dhyanalinga does not care whether you are living or dead. All he knows is to separate the chaff from the grain. He wants to separate what is you from what is not you. He does not care whether you have a body or not. So, if the relatives who carry a strong enough memory of the dead person spend enough time in the Dhyanalinga, say 2 or 3 days around the full moon or new moon days, it could work well for the person who died.